It was a warm spring afternoon in Miami, Florida, and the buzz in the air around the Global Digital Commerce and Innovation Summit was electric. Hosted at the state-of-the-art Miami International Business Arena, the event had drawn titans of industry from around the globe. Media vans lined the perimeter. The summit's agenda was bursting with panel discussions, visionary keynotes, and world premieres of new business technology. But all of that would soon be overshadowed. The press had already speculated on a surprise keynote speaker scheduled just after Jeff Bezos' eagerly anticipated address on the future of Amazon and global retail. That surprise turned out to be Barron Trump, the 19-year-old son of President Donald Trump. No one had expected it. When Barron's name was announced, a ripple of surprise echoed through the room. Was this a gimmick? A PR stunt by the Trump administration? But within seconds of taking the stage, it became clear this was no mere token appearance. Standing confidently in a slim-cut navy blue suit, Barron greeted the audience with a calm and measured tone. Behind him, an enormous digital screen lit up with the title, Commerce 3.0, Restructuring the World's Fastest Marketplaces. What followed would shake the foundation of global e-commerce. Barron began by recounting a conversation he had had with his father about the early days of Amazon and eBay. Back in 2000, we all marveled at two-day shipping, he said. But today, in 2025, why are we still stuck in systems that require hours or even days for last-mile delivery? We have self-driving cars, drone fleets, blockchain. Yet consumers still face broken, outdated structures for what should be instant commerce. He paused. Then, with a swipe of his hand, a 3D model emerged on the screen, showing a decentralized, AI-driven, ultra-localized e-commerce model, he called it, Microgrid Quick Commerce Network, MQN. The model, he explained, would shift the paradigm entirely from centralized warehouse-to-customer shipping to a hyperlocal, peer-to-peer fulfillment system, powered by blockchain, governed by AI logistics, and incentivized through digital currency micro-rewards. Within 5 minutes, the crowd was leaning forward. Even Jeff Bezos, seated in the front row, was watching with narrowed eyes, arms folded. Imagine, Barron said, that your neighbor, who has extra laundry detergent or a sealed electronics cable, gets notified by our app that someone within a half-mile radius needs that product now. That neighbor earns Q-coins for fulfilling the order, tokens redeemable not just for goods, but also stock credits, services, or energy credits in the local economy. He paused to let that sink in. No warehouse, no long-haul delivery, no middle layer. Every person becomes a merchant. Every consumer is a node. The marketplace doesn't just serve the people, it is the people. From the back of the room, murmurs erupted. A Google executive whispered something to her aide. A FedEx representative stood frozen, blinking rapidly. Jeff Bezos sat still, poker-faced. But behind the scenes, his heart was pounding. He had spent decades fine-tuning a commerce empire based on infrastructure, scale, and centralized efficiency. What Barron Trump was proposing was nothing short of a direct threat to everything Amazon had built. Bezos glanced at his advisor, then looked back at the stage as Barron dove deeper into the mechanics of the model. Diagrams showed blockchain-secured inventory tracking, AI-predicted demand curves, and a prototype Q-Hub app interface. It was sleek, fast, revolutionary. The moment Barron clicked to the final slide, showing the first pilot zones already quietly running in Austin, Texas, and Phoenix, Arizona, the room broke into stunned applause. Some clapped out of politeness. Others, like Elon Musk, joining virtually, smiled with fascination. But the biggest reaction was from Jeff Bezos, who finally leaned back in his seat, removed his glasses, and muttered a single word, "Wow!" The digital commerce world had just been rocked. And this was only the beginning. After Barron Trump left the stage, the crowd was still frozen in a cocktail of awe and disbelief. Cameras panned across the front row, capturing expressions that ranged from stunned silence to wary curiosity. Jeff Bezos, the man once heralded as the godfather of modern e-commerce, stood up slowly, straightened his jacket, and made his way backstage. His entourage trailing close behind as he passed a CNN business reporter. She asked, "Mr. Bezos, care to comment on the MQN model?" Bezos didn't stop walking, but tossed a reply over his shoulder. were studying it carefully. Inside the VIP lounge, things were far less composed. Amazon executives were huddled in whispered conversation. One of them had already received preliminary data showing that social media engagement on Barron Trump's MQN presentation was trending higher than Bezos's keynote. Reddit threads were ablaze. TikTok influencers were calling it the commerce revolution of Gen Z. CNBC had already aired a special segment titled, "Can Amazon survive Barron Trump's MQN?" Bezos sat at the head of a polished mahogany table, watching a muted screen showing highlights from Barron's address. He rewound a specific clip, where Barron discussed how drone drops and autonomous EVs could perform within 15-minute delivery windows without warehouse dependency. That hit hard. Bezos broke the silence. This isn't just a proposal. He's built it. He's field-tested it. A younger executive leaned in. "Sir, we think his partnership with that blockchain logistics firm, QPair Technologies, might be deeper than reported. They filed a patent last month. It's under a shell corp, but it's his." Bezos tapped his fingers, then spoke with slow precision. "He's weaponizing decentralization. That's what this is. It's Uber meets Amazon meets Ethereum, but local and faster." Meanwhile, across town at the Hilton Miami Conference Hotel, Barron Trump was in a quiet meeting room, sipping ginger tea with a small team of advisors. Among them was Carter Grisham, a 28-year-old MIT graduate who co-founded the AI routing algorithms powering MQN's logistics. Barron glanced at his phone. The president, his father, had texted, "Incredible job, son. Even I didn't see that coming. You just shook Bezos' cage." "Dad." Barron smirked. He appreciated the praise but knew this wasn't about political optics. It was about shaping the future. "I think we're about to get a call," Carter said, just as his smartwatch buzzed. It was a request for a private virtual briefing with the Department of Commerce. They weren't the only ones calling. That evening, as news spread like wildfire, Wall Street reacted in just hours. Amazon shares dropped 8.4%, wiping $100 billion off its market cap. UPS and FedEx stocks slid amid fears their delivery infrastructure would be bypassed. Walmart held an emergency board meeting. Tesla's stock ticked upward. Analysts believed Elon Musk might be secretly planning to integrate with MQN's vehicle routing system. On CNBC's After Hours, host Kelly Evans asked, "Is this just a smart kid with a cool idea? Or is Barron Trump the next great disruptor of our time?" Her guest, tech analyst Marcus Levin, responded bluntly, "This is real, and if Bezos isn't careful, this 19-year-old might outflank Amazon in under a decade." The next morning, an emergency summit was held behind closed doors at Amazon's Seattle headquarters. Bezos, who normally embraced innovation, looked visibly shaken. But he was also determined. "All right," he told his team, "we don't panic, we innovate, we adapt, and we don't let a Trump kid outmaneuver the company I built from a garage." But there was one problem. Barron Trump's MQN wasn't just a concept that IT was already spreading like wildfire underground, and it had been built precisely to avoid being stopped by giants like Amazon. By the following week, the business world had gone from skeptical curiosity to full-on panic. It started with a leaked internal memo from QPair Technologies, the mysterious logistics company tied to Barron Trump's microgrid quick commerce network, MQN. The memo, obtained by Bloomberg, confirmed what many had suspected. MQN was already live in 16 test cities across the globe, including Berlin, Tokyo, Dubai, and Dallas, operating under various code names. Each cell, or QNode, functioned semi-autonomously. Powered by AI logistics and encrypted blockchain ledgers, QNodes connected local individuals who opted in to share, sell, or barter goods stored in their homes, offices, or vehicles. Some even installed Q-hubs in their garages, smart shelves with barcode scanners and sensors that updated supply data in real time. The kicker? Participation in the network wasn't based on credit cards but tokenized microtransactions. Participants earned Q-coins, which, due to a strategic partnership with several fintech startups, could now be converted to USD, Euro, or BTC in real time, and even spent via a sleek-looking black Q card. By Monday morning, #QCommerce was trending on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and even WeChat. College students were offering up unopened toiletries and used school supplies, even last season's sneakers on the app. Elderly homeowners in suburban neighborhoods were stocking Q-hubs with pantry surplus, making daily passive income without leaving their homes. A viral video showed a pizza delivery driver dropping off an order and then scanning a Q-hub shelf for a requested box of screws, all within one trip. The efficiency was mind-blowing and completely peer-driven. Barron Trump, still keeping a low public profile, issued a single statement through his office. People are not just customers. They are value generators. They are the supply chain. The next generation of commerce is not centralized. It is everywhere. While most industries scrambled to analyze the implications, Amazon made its move. Jeff Bezos, who had returned to an executive role temporarily, called a meeting with leaders from Blue Origin, Whole Foods, AWS, and Prime Logistics. He proposed the creation of Amazon Micro, a mirrored rapid response project designed to counter MQN by enhancing Amazon's local footprint and delivery agility. But there was one critical flaw. Amazon's model still depended on warehouses and corporate-owned fulfillment infrastructure. MQN didn't. And that's where the tide was turning. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump, during a press appearance at the White House, was asked about his son's exploding venture that he chuckled. "Well, I always knew Barron was smart, maybe even smarter than me. Some say it's genetics. Some say it's all that private school tuition I paid for. But I'll tell you what he's doing. That's America. That's genius. That's what happens when you unleash potential instead of regulating it into the ground." The crowd laughed, but the statement echoed through political and corporate corridors alike. The political ramifications were already bubbling. Barron Trump, still in college, was now being hailed as a tech populist by both pro-business Republicans and forward-thinking independents. Even some disillusioned liberals were impressed. "Whether you like the Trumps or not," said MSNBC analyst Rachel Kleinman, Barron just flipped the chessboard, and he didn't do it with power or politics. He did it with innovation. International players were not far behind. India's Reliance Jio reportedly reached out to MQN's dev team for exclusive licensing in South Asia. A European Union regulatory body launched a fast-track review to explore Q-commerce adoption within the blocked China's Alibaba. Sensing a new threat, quietly began building an in-house clone project called Huashan Grid. At this point, the genie was out of the bottle. The beauty of MQN's design wasn't just its technical innovation, it was its uncontainable nature. Because it was decentralized and open source in several components, copycats, forks, and spin-offs had already begun. But users kept returning to Barron's original system because of its superior AI optimization and token reward structure. Barron, meanwhile, remained in the shadows, focused on refinement, expansion, and partnerships. But Jeff Bezos was preparing one final countermeasure, a massive, audacious business chess move. Something no one saw coming. In the early hours of the following Friday, a cryptic tweet went out from Jeff Bezos's personal X, Twitter, account. "If decentralization is the future, then let's build the infrastructure for it ourselves." Hashtag Project Helix. Within moments, business journalists and tech insiders were buzzing. Project Helix was a name no one had heard before, but it wouldn't remain obscure for long. At 10 a.m. Eastern, Amazon called a surprise press conference streamed globally. Bezos, dressed in a steel blue blazer and no tie, stepped onto the stage with the confidence of a man who had built a trillion-dollar empire. But this time, he wasn't unveiling another Alexa or Prime feature. "Project Helix," he began, "is Amazon's biggest pivot since our founding." He paused. "This is not a retail update. This is a war declaration against inefficiency, against centralization gone stale, and yes, against those who think innovation belongs to teenagers with famous last names." The tension in the room was palpable. Then, the bombshell. Amazon would commit $42 billion to build a blockchain-based, decentralized e-commerce ecosystem that would directly rival MQN. It would include micro-fulfillment stations in partnership with independent operators, an open-source inventory sharing protocol, and a dynamic token reward system, Amazon Helix Tokens (AHTs), powered by AWS. Every registered Prime user in North America would be gifted 500 AHTs on launch. Overnight, it became clear this wasn't a bluff. Bezos was all in. But Barron Trump was already 2 moves ahead. Rather than go on the offensive with a press statement, he initiated a silent protocol release through MQN's GitHub and developer channels. Named Project Photon, it was a software and firmware upgrade for all participating Q nodes, enhancing AI routing by 23%, enabling real-time barter, and adding token lending pools via smart contract protocols. The timing was brutal. Less than 3 hours after Amazon's announcement, thousands of MQN nodes auto-updated. Performance shot up. Response time halved. User retention jumped by 40% at Stanford School of Business. A class on disruptive innovation paused its lecture to watch the MQN versus Amazon battle live. The professor turned to the screen and said, "You're witnessing what happened between Netscape and Internet Explorer. Only this time, both are tech empires." That evening, a special live segment aired on Fox Business called Bezos versus Barron: The Future of the American Economy. During the show, conservative analyst Tucker Baldwin said, "I never thought I'd say this, but this young Trump kid is putting the entire Silicon Valley on its back foot. He's not trying to destroy capitalism, he's giving it a quantum upgrade. And Bezos? He's fighting for relevance." On the left, MSNBC host Andrea Michaels admitted, "Love them or hate them, the Trumps know how to command attention. Barron has done what Elon Musk couldn't: build a decentralized system that actually works and gets adopted overnight." But it wasn't just business minds watching this unfold in homes across America. Teenagers were hosting MQN drop parties. Elderly retirees were being taught how to earn Q coins by participating in community hubs, and local grocery stores were abandoning traditional e-commerce apps in favor of MQN plugins that offered faster fulfillment and zero commission. In Detroit, a struggling mom-and-pop shop tripled their weekly revenue by installing a smart shelf outside their window and connecting it to a Q-node. In Kansas, a 16-year-old programmed a neighborhood MQN dashboard that helped consolidate milk and egg orders, effectively replacing 3 local delivery apps. Barron Trump wasn't just changing the game, he had rewritten the rulebook. And Bezos, while Project Helix was technically brilliant and financially powerful, it couldn't manufacture organic momentum. Helix was strategic. MQN was cultural, and culture in tech is everything. Still, the war wasn't over. The World Economic Roundtable in Zurich, where Barron was expected to attend virtually, an unexpected challenger surfaced. Elon Musk. In a cryptic post, Musk wrote, "Decentralization is good, but who controls the algorithm?" Attached was a teaser of what looked like a neural-linked commerce framework, something that might merge Tesla's delivery fleet, X.com's payments, and Neuralink's adaptive AI. Suddenly, a new axis had formed: Bezos, Musk, Trump. And the world waited to see what came next. It was late October when the Global Future Economy Summit convened in Singapore. The event, usually reserved for presidents, royalty, and Fortune 100 CEOs, had a surprise keynote speaker, Barron Trump, introduced simply as Founder MQN. He walked onto the stage in a black slim-fit suit, holding no notes, wearing no earpiece. Just calm, quiet confidence. His voice was steady, yet carried the gravity of a movement larger than himself. He began with a question that would ricochet around the world. What if Amazon, Walmart, Alibaba, and all centralized commerce systems disappeared tomorrow? Would your community survive? Would your neighborhood still trade, still thrive, still connect? Silence. Then leaning in, he delivered the answer. With MQN, it would. Barron outlined the final phase of his vision. Barronomics, a hybrid economic model where individual nodes, not corporations, become the producers, consumers, and distributors. He called it local-centric decentralized capitalism. It wasn't socialism, and it wasn't unrestrained corporate capitalism. It was digitally enhanced mutualism, optimized by AI, incentivized by blockchain, and protected by smart contracts. He revealed a new partnership with the U.S. Postal Service, transforming underused infrastructure into MQN's backbone in rural America. Thousands of post offices would double as node hubs, revitalizing their purpose while empowering communities. Then came the kicker. Barron opened MQN's full back-end architecture to the public, allowing countries, NGOs, and cities to fork and adapt it to their own needs, under a decentralized license called Open Trade 1.0. It was radical. It was rebellious. It was revolutionary. The standing ovation lasted almost 5 minutes. The fallout back in America, the White House scrambled to balance its role. President Donald Trump praised his son in a televised interview. Barron's got a brain like nobody else. He's creating jobs, creating opportunity, and I'll say it. He's going to be remembered not just as my son, but as one of the brightest minds in American enterprise. Wall Street didn't know what to do. Amazon stock dipped 8% the day after Barron's summit speech. FedEx announced a pilot partnership with MQN just 2 days later. Walmart executives were caught on a hot mic saying, "We either join or get buried." Meanwhile, a new crop of MQN millionaires emerged. These weren't crypto bros or Silicon Valley techies. They were stay-at-home moms in Kentucky, disabled veterans in Arizona, single dads in Idaho, and Gen Z hackers in Chicago who had built plugins, optimized routes, or turned garages into Q-hubs. Qcoin, the platform's digital currency, had crossed $1 in value, having started at 1 cent just 4 months earlier. Several payment processors, including Stripe and Cash App, integrated Qcoin overnight. Then the unthinkable happened. The United Nations issued a formal endorsement of the MQN model for disaster recovery logistics in Africa and South America. Barron's model had leapfrogged global supply chains and saved lives in crisis zones by crowdsourcing goods and routes faster than any centralized agency could. Bezos, now slightly outmaneuvered, was seen having lunch with Musk in Palo Alto. Rumors flew about a joint venture between Project Helix and Musk's teased neural commerce platform, which would use neural AI agents to anticipate consumer needs and automate exchanges across EVs, brain interfaces, and satellite data. But public sentiment had already shifted. Polls conducted by Reuters found that 73% of Americans, across red and blue states, believed that Barron Trump's commerce vision was more aligned with American values than Amazon's or Alibaba's. News outlets, once dismissive, now referred to him as the architect of the people's economy. A new chapter begins months later. During a televised conversation at NYU's Stern School of Business, Barron Trump sat beside legendary economist Dr. Felicia Rowan. She turned to him and said, "Barron, you didn't just disrupt e-commerce. You redefined participation in capitalism. What's next?" Barron, smiling for the first time that night, leaned forward. "The next phase is identity. If we can decentralize commerce, we can decentralize identity, ownership, governance. MQN is just the first building block." And with that, the crowd once again erupted. Epilogue. The Barron impact. In just 6 months, Barron Trump had gone from a quiet, private young man to the catalyst of the largest economic shift since the dot-com era. His decentralized commerce model had not only challenged Bezos, it had reshaped the foundations of digital trade, consumer power, and trust, and no longer was he seen as merely the youngest Trump. He had carved out his own identity, not in politics, but in innovation, participation, and empowerment. From Wall Street to the White House, from Lagos to Los Angeles, the message was clear. Commerce had changed, and it started with a teenage visionary named Barron Trump.